welcome Goku. By the way, I forgot to say, today's topic is change, freedom, and relationship. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. All of you can hear me all right? Usually I don't have a table in front of me to talk. I feel like there's a barrier between you. But everyone's hearing all right? Want to speak louder? Yeah. Okay, up in here. So, Mr. Ye introduced me as a professor and a practitioner. So today I'm now wearing my professor hat. I'll speak with you as a practitioner of Chan. How many of you do not know what Chan is? Okay. How many of you do not really meditate? Please raise your hand. Okay, a few. Okay. So most of you are practitioners of some kind. How many of you are not Buddhists? Actually, you probably guessed by now, I don't really prepare for my talks. So I'm trying to gauge where everyone's at. I gave this topic because a lot of people see spiritual practice as some kind of method, technique, way to improve themselves. Maybe they feel a sense of dis-ease, dissatisfaction in life. And it's quite natural. Most of us feel like at the baseline of our being as something's wrong, something's not right, something needs to be fixed within us. So then practice, whatever tradition, becomes a means to an end, where the point of practice is to get better, to improve, overcome, fix those things that's wrong that we find within, so we can get to where we want to be. So then the relationship that they have with practice becomes actually problematic. Because if we relate to our practice, as most of you are practitioners, as a means to an end, then we're never going to really better ourselves. Never really going to feel happy, satisfied. Because very fundamentally, the way we orient ourselves is lacking. Seeking, rejecting. Happiness out there, or peace, or awakening, or betterment, in that very moment, there's denial here. So it becomes like a dog chasing its tail. But this is the way that we are reared. This is the way that we conditioned. In our pursuit of happiness, in our pursuit of freedom, simultaneously, actually acknowledging our imprisonment. We lack that now, therefore we seek that there. Does that make sense? This is the way that we're deeply, deeply conditioned. Everything around us shapes us this way. And so I propose this topic, charm, freedom, relationship, because it is this relationship really that we have with ourselves, translated to that we have with our method of practice, our meditation, our spiritual engagement. That relationship is what needs to be transformed. It's what needs to be examined, really, and looked into. Otherwise, everything that we practice, everything that we do, will be hijacked by this self-referential sense of lack. I must have. I must attain because I don't have it here. Does that make sense? Everything will be hijacked by it. And it becomes something like some kind of substitution. It's not what that we seek after, but it's really, we have to examine into how we are relating to ourselves, and relating to our lives, relating to others, relating to our practice. So, to me, the topic of charm, freedom, and relationship is really the same thing. It's really the same thing. There are a few of you who don't have a background in charm. So I will spend a few minutes talking about charm. And so we're all on the same page. And then we'll talk about freedom. And then we practice a little bit. So we develop kind of experience this, what I'm talking about, this relationship. So we may take a break in the middle. When we come back, do a little practice. How's that sound? All right? Okay. So maybe a little bit of history of Chan and its kind of core essence. First of all, Chan is popularly known as Zen. I'm sure everyone has heard of Zen. How many of you have never heard of Zen? Everyone has heard. You never heard Zen? Did she drag you here?
It's a company have you heard? I said yes.
Oh, I've never heard. Sorry. So you know, we have different ideas of Zen, deep Chan. The character is basically the same. People pronounce it differently. Chan, Zen, Korean would be Song. But Chan is the progenitor of the Japanese Zen, the precursor of the Vietnamese Tian, the Korean Song. And it emerged in China as a kind of countercultural movement, as a reactionary movement against scholasticism, Buddhist scholasticism. Why? Buddhist scholasticism emerged as a necessary step to reconcile, to classify, organize all the Buddhist teachings that have kind of flooded, transmitted to China. So it came into China, Buddhism was transmitted in an ad hoc way. You know, the Buddhist tradition had thousands of texts. So it's not like one homogeneous tradition, Buddhism. Many, many different forms with many different scriptures tied to it. So on the receiving end of the Chinese, it's chaotic, actually. This text talks about emptiness, this text talks about existence. That text talks about compassion, another one, compassion is empty. One scripture talks about impermanence, early text, later Mahayana text, Mahayana is a different form of Buddhism, talks about permanence, purity, true self, and existence. That's the Mahaprajnaparamita. So apparently inconsistent. But that's because Buddhism has never been a fixed doctrinal teaching. Its teaching emerged in the context of audience. When people have headache, you give headache medicine. People have stomach ache, you give stomach ache medicine. Right? So it's not like a one pill that fixes everything. So it emerged as a contextual kind of audience-centered teaching. Very flexible, adaptive. And throughout its development, even in India, it adapted to local cultic traditions, evolved, and continued to change. So the Chinese were receiving all of these different texts, different approaches, and so on. So scholasticism, Buddhist scholasticism, has emerged as a necessary step to process all of these different teachings. And something very unique happened in Chinese Buddhism. Was transmitted to other parts of East Asia, but was in Buddhism itself as a tradition. Something very unique happened in China, and only in China. And that is, the Chinese developed a system to process, harmonize, integrate these different traditions. And it's called doctrinal classification, which includes also practice. 判教思想. So, this scholasticism, to process which texts belong to elementary type of Buddhism, which texts belong to kind of high school level, which texts are college, which texts are like PhD, postdoc, and so on. So there's no confusion people who are really attached to the self, possessive of things. The Buddhists would teach impermanence. People who are isolated, attached to impermanence. Buddhism teaches relationships, right? Which is another word for emptiness. Emptiness is another word to explain relationships. Right? This table is made up of non-table. Guogu is made up of non-guogu. Everything else is not guogu. So within guogu, there is everything. Does that make sense? Within each of you, every moment of your life bears witness to all that you are. When you respond to people, everything is there. All the people in your life, all your experiences, each moment bears witness to that. How you say hello to people, how you greet other people. That's emptiness. The typical doctrinal word is dependent origination, causation. It's a very technical word. People get tripped up over it. Basically, it's just talking about relationships. How things are interconnected. So people who are kind of isolated, attached to certain things. Buddhism teaches about relationships, connectedness, compassion. So the Chinese had to reconcile these different teachings. So they came up with this classification. But after a few hundred years of that, Chan emerged as a tradition. The counter movement against that because it's too much doctrinal classification. Hence Chan teaches independent from words and language, books, scriptures, a teaching outside of that, directly revealing the heart, so as to awaken to our true nature. This is the axiom, if you will. And so what is this direct access to our heart, our mind? That is the core teaching of Chan. The direct access is different from what I was talking about before. The baseline of our existence, the way we orient ourselves to the world, having, lacking, wanting, needing, grasping, rejecting. So there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. Just the opposite. What is that? It's what I call IAG. It's all good. This is our true nature. It's all good. This good is not the opposite of bad. It's not that good. It's the good that it's all right to have good qualities within us, things that we need to work on, not so good. It's not good. It's all good. The analogy I have for you is, it's like this space here. Space here. When you came in here, you may have noticed other people, you may have noticed furniture, all kinds of stuff. People that are familiar, people that are not familiar, you know, how the space is organized. All of the furniture, all of the people do not define the openness and spaciousness of this room. Right? The spaciousness, the openness is originally, not originally in terms of time, like it used to be a certain way, now it's full of furniture. Not in that sense. Even when there's cluttered, even when all of you are here, even when we put all the chairs and tables and all these furniture, it's free. The spaciousness has never been lost. The openness has never been lost. That's our true nature. See? So it's not based on a sense of lack. It's only based on a sense of lack when we narrowly focus on the furniture. We've lost sight of the spaciousness, the openness. What are the furniture? Maybe our child rearing process, the way we're conditioned, the way we've lived our lives, all of which has a history to them. Not something to deny. Not something to oppose, reject. Even the not so pleasant aspects of our life. This is not to say we should not improve them. We're not saying that. Some furniture are dilapidated. Needs to be recycled. But recycled, in that process, we can build something else. Right? But in that process of building, we don't lose sight of the spaciousness of our heart. That's who we are. And that is freedom. If you haven't lost sight of that, the way you relate to the furniture will be completely different. The way you fix up the furniture, the way you recycle the furniture, the way you create new furniture will be very different. If we're only caught up with furniture and we don't see the spaciousness, what is the spaciousness? What is this freedom? This is what I've been talking about. Is basically a metaphor. But in reality, it is the resilience that we have. It is the resilience that we have if we do not reify, solidify our experiences into things. If we allow things to flow through us, the sorrow, the grief, the sadness, without solidifying them into a narrative. I am this way, I am that way. As soon as you do that, it becomes fixed furniture. It becomes solidified. As long as we stay true to this openness, we allow it to flow through us. When we are sad, completely be sad, without fixing onto a narrative that defines us, like furniture, that defines space, then we're free in the midst of that. And that is our true nature. That is freedom. That is the space. It's very hard for us to do that because all that we've ever known are furniture. We've been carrying luggage, furniture throughout. So the latter half of this talk, I'll share with you a particular practice. It's called silent illumination. How many of you have heard of it, read about it? Okay. In Japanese, presented as shikantaza, just sitting. Okay. But the way I teach it is different than the way my teacher taught it, and it's different than the Japanese presentation of it. Silent illumination. It's a kind of poetic metaphor for our true nature. The spacious openness of our heart, of our mind. It is not a method. But this metaphor can be turned into a principle, a guiding principle to whatever practice that you do. And that principle is two aspects. The silence, or silent, is a metaphor for spaciousness. The spaciousness of this room. The openness of this room. Illumination is a metaphor for function, precisely because it is open, spacious. It's able to contain all the furniture and all of you. It's able to allow everyone, all of you, and everything to happen. So, practicing in such a way, it's like practicing in accordance with our true nature. The way my teacher presented it, he did talk about this, but usually people miss it. They latch on to the stages of practice that he presents. First stage of silent illumination, you do this. Second stage, you do that. He's just toying with you guys. Anyone who read that, it's like throwing in some breadcrumbs or presenting you some furniture for you to kind of graduate from one furniture to the second furniture, and I'm on my way to awakening. Third furniture, I'm on the fourth stage now. All of which are contained in the natural openness, spaciousness of our heart. So I'll talk about that later, but the core, I spoke about the history of Chan. The core of Chan teaching is freedom. So Chan, what is Chan? If we were to articulate it, it's freedom. Freedom. Only from our perspective. From our perspective. What is our perspective? The perspective from the furniture. From bondage. From imprisonment, from ordinary sentient beings, from the perspective of practice, there's freedom. From the perspective of freedom, there's no need to talk about freedom. Right? So, We have to be careful of this. We don't turn freedom into a thing we have to get. Right? Then it becomes reified, solidified into a thing. Because when we seek after freedom, when we practice so we can be free, in that very moment, we're denying our freedom. We're operating from the perspective of lacking freedom. I want freedom. So, see that? So, I'm not awakened, but I want to awaken. So this way of orienting our practice, you'll never have freedom. In thinking this way, practicing this way, we're denying ourselves. That's why I say freedom only conventionally. Now, speaking of spaciousness and so on, from an ordinary person's perspective. But all of us, in this very moment of the difficulties that we face, the history, personal histories, the way that we're conditioned, in this very moment, you're free. From this perspective, there's no more need to seek, to reject, to feel a sense of lacking or a need for having. So, we'll talk about this practice a little later. But the heart of Chan is this freedom. That makes sense so far? But what we're up against is all that we've ever known in our lives. The furniture. We can't see space. We can see it here. Right? But when we are in the midst of pain, grief, very difficult. Very difficult. When we are in the midst of vexations, it's very difficult. So practice becomes necessary. So all this talk, up here, prefrontal cortex, you get it, right? In order to apply it, we have to learn to integrate it. Integrate this. Not some external knowledge, but recognizing, having methods to recognize that which we truly are. The resilience, the openness of the present. Of the present. That is the key. In the present, all things liberate themselves. When we solidify the present, identify with how we feel, identify with our narratives, storylines, in that reification, solidification, there's no freedom. Our true nature is to allow ourselves, allow things to be free. There was a monk who approached Chan Master, the Zen Master, Dongshan Yangjie. Dongshan, teacher. escape the heat and the cold. Zen monks talking metaphors. Okay, so basically, there's nothing wrong with this question because the whole Buddhist project is freedom. So Chan Buddhism basically distilled all the complicated Buddhist doctrine and teaching into this single point: free. Right? So there's nothing wrong with asking this question. All the Buddhist teachings basically is talking about recognizing freedom, to be free, vexation, to be free from self. He spoke about it in terms of how does one escape the heat and the cold. And Chan Master Dongshan says, when you are cold, allow it to freeze you. When you're hot, burn up. It's not a metaphor. This has always been the Chan approach. Whatever pain and grief, joy and sorrow that you experience, if you solidify into a thing, you're done. You're through. You're in bondage. You have identified. You have gone contrary to your true nature, which is to allow it go through. We don't have the courage to do that. We need crutches. We need props. We want to get rid of the heat, escape the cold. We want this moment to be other than what it is. Soon as we want this moment to be other than what it is, we're operating in terms of having, lacking, seeking, rejecting, in a self-referential way. All of our choices and decisions evolve around this imaginary, self-referential point. Me, I, mine. You're through. So the Chan approach has always been practiced in accordance to our true nature, which is free, which is non-reification. The technical term is non-attachment. I don't like to use that because nowadays, non-attached, people use it and they understand it in a wrong way. They think everything is just non-attached. I should just leave my partner and give away my wealth. Totally not what this is talking about. It's not talking about these things. It's not what. It is how. How we are relating to ourselves, relating to things. Does that make sense? When we are hot, allow the heat to burn us through and through. Then you will discover, without reification, solidifying our experiences into some kind of narrative, then you will discover your resilience. You will discover that nothing can break you. But if you solidify into a narrative, into things, you will break. You believe that? If you identify me, I, mine as this, you'll definitely break. You'll crumble to pieces. If you align yourself to your true nature, open completely to your feelings, without running storyline, you'll be free. Free in the midst of grief, sorrow, joy, and happiness. That is the power If you are a little bit drowsy, you can open your eyes and look straight ahead. Don't focus on anything, but allow your vision to encompass the whole spaciousness of this room. No words or language, no narrative or discursive thoughts. In the beginning, it may be difficult, your mind may wander, so we give it a furniture. What's the furniture? Focus on your breath, the experiencing part. Even when you do that, don't get too caught up with it. What's the experience? Cool or warmth? Smooth and silky or coarse? Light or heavy, a little turbulent at the nostrils? Long or short? Whatever sensation you have, that's what we experience. But the experiencing part is continuous. You just naturally allow yourself to rest on the experiencing of the breath. See how that feels. Don't try to manipulate the breath, change the breath, control the breath. Allow it to flow through. Slowly come out of it. First thing you gotta do is wake ourselves up. Rub your hands together, the needy part, and then place it on your eyes. Allow the warmth to come in. Do this several times. Be aware of the movements and sensations of your body. So body and mind are still together. And then rub your hands onto the whole face. And then use your fingertips, massage the scalp. What I do is I put it on my ears and just slowly walk up. Slowly walk up the scalp and then walk back down. different area. And walk back until the whole scalp is massaged. Be aware of movements and sensation. And then you do the neck. And then muscle squeeze, joints rub. Still very much in tune with how you feel in this moment, how your heart feels, along with the sensation. Your chest, abdomen, rib cage, and in the back, along the two sides of the spine. Use your knuckles to massage. Don't crisscross, just along the two sides. And the lower back, you rub where the kidneys are. And then thighs, the same. Muscle squeeze. Joints rub. Body and mind together. Okay, how was that period? Good. It seems so simple. I've added one ingredient different than the way my teacher taught it. My teacher taught it as just relaxing and then using method. I added one more step in between. Remember what do we do after we prime the body? Before we even use the breath or use the method? What do we do? Contentment. After we prime the body, we have to prime the mind. We have to familiarize ourselves with a particular undercurrent tone. This is a segue into becoming more familiar with how we feel. So once the body is relaxed, we have to get used to how we actually feel in this moment. The more familiar we are, now contentment is a pleasant tone. I'm sure all of us really like that. But once we are familiar with how we feel, then we can integrate into daily life to how we feel. When negative experiences come, we also experience how we feel. And we're able to allow it to go through. And the key here, I just let you guys try a little bit of it, a little bit of taste. I mentioned something. I said, don't get caught up with that which is experienced, what we experience, but the experiencing itself. Remember that? That ability to kind of regain before the narrative, before constructs and storylines and so on, just to reduce to the most natural ability of our heart, of our mind. Just like the eyes see, ears hear, heart, mind experiences. How many of you were able to just experience the experiencing in the moment? Raise your hand. Get a little taste of it. Okay. Some of you are able to. Most of us are caught up with furniture. We're caught up with what we're experiencing. I'm experiencing contentment. I feel comfortable. I feel drowsy, I'm wandering thought. Just furniture, you see? But what ties through all of these experiences, what strings through every one of the meditation states, all the stages of practice, all the delusion and blissful experiences, what strings through everything is the most fundamental function of mind, heart. That is experiencing. And that is the most direct way of experiencing our true nature. That way of practicing is in alignment with freedom. It's no longer caught up with furniture. The breath. Now, if you have a lot of wandering thoughts, I say you can go to the breath sensation, right? Don't get too caught up with it. Temporary. Allow the mind to rest there. Rest there, rest there, rest there. As you progress, then you don't need to. The sensations will drop away anyway. If you still need an anchor, go down to the abdomen. The most simple rise and fall of the abdomen. That will drop away too. Go down to the whole body. The whole presence. The experiencing, concrete, embodied experiencing of this moment. What I focus on is don't make experience into a cerebral thing. Experience must be embodied. So we use the body as a foundation. In tune with this, in tune with this, in tune with the whole thing. So whatever you feel, it's actually embodied. You believe it? So once you're more familiar with this, negative things happen inevitably. Life, all these things. Telling yourself to stop it, would that work? It doesn't work at all. Nothing will work. Because this is narrative. This is furniture. You can't use one furniture to substitute another furniture. You have to go back to your true nature, your freedom, which is flow. Except this is embodied. You access it through the body. You see? So progressive realization, in tune with how you feel, and release. Allow it to flow. Don't come up with stories, narrative, analysis, whatever pain, whatever grief, whatever thing you feel, allow it to go through. And you may feel like you're collapsing. You're having a breakdown. I've experienced that. I'm still, in a sense, experiencing it. When your heart is vulnerable, you feel you can't do anything about it. When it's hot, what do? Let it burn you. When it's frozen, let it freeze you. That vulnerability, allow it to flow through without solidifying. And nothing will break you. That's freedom. That's Chan. Now, in this process, are there moments of awakening? Yeah. They're kind of like side effects of practice. Moments of insight. Unless a person is able to integrate those insights, selfless, emptiness, this kind of openness, integrate it, they just remain as memories. No effect on your life. So what I've found, post-awakenings, the most direct way is to align ourselves back, concretely, in the midst of the suffering, the anguish, the difficulties that we have. The most true, authentic way is to feel completely completely what it is. Allow it to flow through. Then we really truly begin to build a more whole relationship with ourselves. Because practice is about relationship. All the different ways that how all of you engage in spiritual practice is just a miniature version of how you treat yourself in daily life. You believe it? How you treat other people in daily life. Encounter vexations, I want to fight through. That's exactly how you relate to other people. So if you don't deal with the relationship part, how you begin with yourself, how you relate to your counting the breath, how you actually relate to working with mindfulness of breath. Some people mindfulness of breath, they're all wandering thought, they want to stick to the breath, so to reject the wandering thought. That's exactly the cause of your anguish. Do you believe it? That's exactly the way, because you're practicing, orienting your whole life on the basis of having, lacking, wanting, needing, grasping, rejecting. Furniture, just switching furniture around. Spiritual materials, just kind of collecting stuff. That way of practice is like a dog chasing the tail. You get nowhere. So unless you transform the way you relate to yourself by relating to your method. That's why I tell my students you have to love your method. Love your method. I remember this one guy, young guy, very handsome, came on this retreat. He's just there to check out the other girls. It's called a college retreat. So he's like, yeah, I'm going to join that. So he's like meditating. Check out what other people are doing all the time, you know. And then I gave him a special method. I said, he's read about Zen. How many of you heard the word, this koan, gongan, mu, Joshu's mu, right? Master Zhao Zhou's wu, wu zi gongan. What is wu? What is wu? And I said, Alex, not only you're checking out the girl, but there's someone that's really, really special for you. It's like, who? And I said, Miss Wu. Miss Wu? Which one is she? Like, Miss Wu's always been with you. You have to ask, okay, what is Wu? By the end of the retreat, he was sitting through like 2-3 periods. He wasn't checking out any girls anymore. He was like, he was completely relaxed into it. He loved his method. In order for you to practice, you have to love your method. Don't try to use the method in order to get somewhere else, to get something else. You'll never get it. As soon as you do that, you deny yourself here, right now. You want freedom. That means you're not free. You're imprisoned. Not wanting to move. Right? That's another method. But silent liberation, just being here, right now, free. You're free. That freedom takes 2 aspects. One, the ability not to hold on to things. That's silent. The other aspect, experience. Moment to moment, wakeful experiencing. That's your true nature. That's something to investigate. So, Chan, freedom. Your freedom. Just as long as you don't make it your freedom, like my freedom. Then the vicious cycle starts again. Okay, don't do that. It's just from the perspective of freedom, there's no freedom because everything's already free. Okay. John, freedom and relationships. How you relate intimately. Sometimes I say practice about relationship, but practice is also about intimacy. Practice how to be intimate with yourself, how to be in tune. The more in tune you are, the more you're able to actually allow that to function. The power of intimacy, the power of freedom, that will carry you through, that will foster insights. Okay? Let's see. We have some time for questions. If you have, please feel free to raise. First of all, you're able to, everyone's able to follow, right? Understand? Please. Sorry.
Hey, beautiful talk. So usually, beautiful talk, thank you. So after the practice, I always end up in, like, I don't remember anything. It's like almost a blackout.
No, we can't do that.
And then when you start talking, for me it's like, what he's talking about. Then I start to remember the word we need. What is that? Usually that happens.
That's called haziness. What we need to do, we have to allow our heart and mind to regain its most natural state. Just like the eye sees, there's no obstruction.
Yeah.
The ears hear, and the mind completely open. It's clear.
Yeah.
It's so clear and in tune. It knows exactly what the undercurrent tone of how we feel is. But we are habituated when we relax. My teacher used to call chicken pecking at the rice. Or maybe the body is not moving, the mind just becomes inert. Just begin to have kind of dullness. That's something to be very careful of.
I am not going to sleep. It's just...
Yes, but the mind has taken, sometimes the mind can take stillness as a thing, nothingness as a thing to meditate on.
Yeah.
That's danger. What I'm talking about is, it doesn't take anything. It's completely open. The grasping hand of the mind is completely open, wakeful. Moment to moment to moment to moment. Just wakeful, experiencing.
For me, it's almost like losing control, and then trying to gain control. I have to get all the labels. But trying to not lose control.
Completely lose control. Completely vulnerable and open, yet experiencing. The experiencing part must be present.
Okay.
If the experiencing part is not present, that means the mind has taken dullness, taken blankness, taken something as a thing. What I'm talking about is just experiencing, vibrant, open, wakeful. It's like you looking at me now. Right? Look at me. What is your name?
Francisco.
Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to call your name and you're going to answer, okay?
Yeah.
It's like that. Your mind is open, receptive, because it's waiting, but it's not coming. Nothing's coming out. Wakeful. It's like that. The mind's natural state is just open, experiencing. We're used to holding on, experiencing this. What I'm talking about is just. So little by little, we go for quality as opposed to quantity. Just once you relax, prime the body, prime the mind, heart open. Content, grateful, whatever. And then just slowly segue into just experiencing as opposed to content, as opposed to grateful. experiencing, whatever it is. If you can't, you need more crutch, props, concrete things, go to the breath.
But when I come out from this, forgetting where I am, I know exactly how I feel. They called me, I was wondering something, and it was the answer right there. Even I was listening to you, so I feel myself. I don't know how, but
Okay.
so.
Be more in tune with that.
That's
good. All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I know people who I don't meditate, but I know I've heard that some people who meditate can lower their pulse and their pulse
Metabolism.
So
Temperature.
because I'm an ex-medic, so I always think that can this chant and meditation, this kind of exercise, including the ones you taught, certain elements, be related to an increased vagal response? Does it, because we have our parasympathetic system and our sympathetic system, so does it mean that it's lowering, it's calling
Definitely.
to lower the sympathetic system and raise the parasympathetic?
Definitely. How the parasympathetic nervous system is accessed is actually through the breath.
Yes.
Managing the calm and
Yes.
Rest.
Yes.
However, it's not like lowering, and just dead. What's necessary is to regain the natural wakefulness of mind, and that retains the alertness, the wakefulness of the sympathetic nervous system. So there's a balance, sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system.
And the breathing exercise and pressing on the eyeballs,
Yeah.
those are all probably
All of these are helpful. Yeah. It's just that most people, the stress level is so high, so there's constantly fight and flight. So we need to kind of balance a little bit.
So by that, would something like coffee be a bad thing? I mean, because
I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, I need coffee.
That's how I will answer.
That's a temperature, right? and I need coffee. And coffee also raises your sympathetic. So that kind of thing is all you plan. You don't have.
It's not good or bad. It's not good or bad. You just have to work with it.
Okay.
Just have to work with it. I personally don't drink coffee. Very seldom drink tea. I drink this water. So if I work, I have to work a lot. I try not to depend on external things. Yeah. The body and mind will regulate itself. I remember when I was in the monastery, I had a Dharma brother who is currently the new president of the Dharma Drum Mountain Organization, Guohui Fashi. We used to hang out together. He's very studious. Whenever he gets tired physically, we didn't have coffee in the monastery. We didn't have drink tea. That's a romantic notion of what Zen monks do, tea. We didn't do that. What we did was he just got up and just walked around, did walking meditation, did some exercise, and then come back, sit, and just did his work. The body regulate, or sometimes we just got up and did prostration practice. So I'm not against tea or coffee. You just have to work with it. You have to work with it. You know your body. You have to know your body. You have to be intimately connected to different tones, terrain of how you actually feel. That's to practice. Then you can work with it. Otherwise, we're just in the dark. Stumble upon our own furniture, trip over it. Other people trip over your furniture. So you just have to open the light. So, all right. Another question? Yes.
Well, thank you for your talk. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to ask.
Okay, please.
When you say when you freeze, just freeze, and when you burn, just burn up.
Yeah.
And don't solidify that. Would you elaborate on the solidification part so we know what to avoid, please?
We solidify our experiences to narratives.
Okay.
and habits. Our habit tendencies drive the way we interpret things. That is solidifying. So for example, there are 3 things that we human beings need. I'm going to tell you for free. We need to be heard. We need to be seen. We need to be loved. And practically everything that we do is orchestrated by these 3. So in our upbringing process, if we don't get enough of that, like most of us in this room, and it's not necessarily our parents' fault. Everyone's trying their best. Everyone's trying their best. It's the best way they know how to do it. But unfortunately or fortunately, the relationship just turns out this way. So we carry this, and then we relate to other people. And our human relations have different pain and different happiness and joy and all that. And when we feel certain things, we will naturally narrativize, interpret what we feel through this frame of mind, of our heart. This person don't love me. This person lean on me. I'm always the giver, and that person's always the taker. All of these things. The feelings has a history because they are concrete. We are concretely shaped into who we are. Every moment when we face difficulty, that moment bears witness to all that we are. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the way we interpret things, the way we experience things. The way to be free is to just allow it to go through. Experience the grief, experience the heat, experience the pain. It's not to say we become dull, like we have no interpretation whatsoever, but our interpretation after that, or later on, or in the midst of it, it's only a temporary rest, temporary referential point. So that's how we integrate our intellect and our emotions. So the storyline constantly change. They actually constantly change. Constantly change. So when we solidify, that's like we don't allow it to change. As we mature, as we grow, as we become more free, these things no longer define and bind us. That's what I mean.
So just to let it in and let it go, and more.
Yes, but I don't usually say that because when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, just let go." It becomes another cerebral thing. That's why I focus on feelings. Feelings, how you actually feel, because most people are not in tune with how they feel. They don't know what they feel. That is the shape, the maneuver of our experience. You have to feel that. And just allow it. Sadness, completely sad. Joy, completely joy.
So absorb it and feel the experience.
Like a bottomless barrel. Absorb makes it like take it in. That can be a survival mechanism. Some people just suppress, take it in, take. I can absorb, whoever says absorb. Not absorb, just flow.
Okay. Thank you.
Sometimes it's very painful. But that gives courage. When we allow things to flow, nothing can break us. Our stories, the way we solidify ourselves into this and that, will break. We will have an emotional collapse or this and that. But if we allow it to go through, and the ability to allow it to go through comes from practice. You can't just hear a talk and then able to try to do it. You can't. You have to be familiar with meditation, the power to just allow it to be. Through the practice, we will be able to let go. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
Thank you.
Yes.
So doing the meditation, right?
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts comes to my mind,
Yeah.
emotions, and I am aware of it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, for example, oh, right now I am angry because of yesterday. I lost $100. But as you said, we have to accept this fact. And so for me, like I'm telling myself, okay, I'm aware of this, and I'm have to throw it away. That isn't that form of furniture also? Like,
Yeah, that's suppression. If you feel you have to throw it away, that's suppression. That's
but then I can't focus anymore. If I don't tell myself to throw it away, I'll focus on $100.
it's not focusing on it. I'm not talking about the furniture. I'm talking about the feeling. It's not the $100. It's the sense of loss. It's that feeling of loss. And if you dive right into that loss with vulnerability, you dive right in, you will see that it doesn't hurt that much.
But then doing meditation, the feeling's gonna bother you. You can have the empty.
We will only be bothered when we want something other than what it is. It's very subtle. You have to experience. So next time the feeling of you just have an argument and feeling and you try to resist. When we feel pain, it comes from resistance. That's why there's suffering. That's why there's pain. What I'm talking about is slowly face that resistance. When we face it, then we can accept it. When we accept, you're free. Then we can practically try to find the $100 bill, communicate with so-and-so afterwards. But as long as you cannot accept the fact that you lost that $100 bill, it's such a pity. I need to do this. I'm just going to use it for this. That resentment, that resistance, you're not free. So if we go right into it and investigate that in the present moment, embodied experiencing, nothing to fear.
So doing the practice, doing the meditation, that feeling of loss or the negative feelings comes to me right now. So what I'm supposed to do is instead of telling myself, leave it, throw it away, I just have to accept it comes and then start to have
Accept
emotion.
it. Accept it. Chan's been talking about this. Don't grasp the third patriarch, Sun Tan, Chan Master Sun Tan. He says the first line of his teaching has come down to what is the great way is not difficult as long as you do not pick and choose. In other words, grasp and reject. As soon as you do that, he says, the heaven and earth will be so far apart. So what's not difficult? It's the most difficult thing to do because we tend to grasp and reject, resist, and chase. So that ability is the most powerful strength, the most inexhaustible strength of the mind. Right? So we learn to appreciate this, cultivate this gradually. Little by little. Pain, grief, suffering, don't fall back. Open yourself. And you'll see that because behind that is fear. When you open yourself, you'll discover, like the Heart Sutra, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, nothing to fear. There is no fear. Nothing will be able to break you. As long as there's solidifying this resentment. I wish this to be other than what it is.